Hello everybody, and welcome back to What's the Obsession, covering the Kiely Rodni case to help ensure complete justice is found for Kiely. So what do we know about the Kiely Rodni case? Right now it is the evening of September 19th here in New York, and what we know so far is this. Law enforcement, 18 agencies, spent 19,000 man-hours with 300 boots on the ground or fins in the water looking for Kiely over 12 days. Apparently, law enforcement searched Prosser Lake Reservoir, where Kiely's vehicle and remains were eventually found by Adventures with Purpose. When Adventures with Purpose arrived on the scene, in 35 minutes after beginning to search Prosser Reservoir, they found the car, and diver Nick eventually located Kiely's 2013 CRV with Kiely's remains inside. It was a heartbreak to so many. So since then, as I'm sure many of you know, Adventures with Purpose has been speaking out about what they believe happened to Kiely. In my opinion, the guys from Adventures with Purpose are nothing but first class. They've been nothing but deferential and respectful to law enforcement, allowing them time to do their thing, to release information as they see fit, and in my opinion, they have not been getting in the way at all. I think what they're portraying to the public now is a sense of certainty and maybe even a sense of urgency that they must get their message out and let the public know that they don't believe Kiely's death was an accident. I just happened to turn on YouTube last night after getting home, and what do you know? The interview room with Chris McDonough was on, and Chris McDonough was interviewing Doug and Nick. Jared, in the beginning of this live stream of the interview room, was on. And guys, what Jared specifically said to Chris McDonough in this live stream in the interview room really blew me away. These guys never cease to amaze me. So Chris McDonough asked, how's everyone been doing? Have things been toning down since, the whole Kiely situation happened? And Jared responds by saying,
I think it's one of those things to where it's still in the news. It's going to stay in the news until there's, further word from the investigation. And one of the things about the investigation, we have our stance. We've spoken publicly about what we believe based upon what we've seen, and there's a lot that people are making judgment calls as to us voicing our opinion, and people want to hear our opinion until our opinion doesn't align with others. And we're okay with that based upon all the evidence that we have. Now, if law enforcement comes out and they say, we believe otherwise, we will support their decision. Will we believe it in our hearts based upon what we've seen? We never will. But we have to accept it, and we will continue to move on to the next case, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to find the where and let them figure out the how and if there's a who involved.
So I just felt that one statement was really packed. You could really unload it and unwrap it. As time goes on, as we've observed, all of the members of Adventures with Purpose who are speaking out, who are doing interviews with YouTubers, are becoming more direct and certain with their message. And their message is, guys, they don't believe this was an accident. Chris McDonough always does a great interview, and this was a great interview all around. After Jared left, Nick sat in with Doug, and for the most part, they talked about other cases. They talked about their overarching philosophies and beliefs that guide the work they do. Pretty deep into the interview, a comment comes up at the bottom of the screen, and Chris McDonough advises, you guys can back into this however you like. And the comment, or the question rather, was, do you think Kiely was going for an air pocket? And Doug takes that question. As always, Doug reaffirms a lot of what he's already told us and also tells us something new. In this case, he uses the percentages 10% and 90%, saying that he's told the public 10% of what they know and 90% of what they know, of the knowledge and information they have not, and at this point cannot disclose to the public.
So you guys drive into this question if you feel comfortable.
Absolutely, this is possible. You know, so we have our opinion. Our opinion, if you've watched our episode, is based on a lot that you see in the episode, as well as 90% of the stuff that we cannot talk about and have never been able to talk about nor comment, and that none of the public even knows. So, but does that mean we're right? Absolutely not. We're allowed to voice our opinion, and we're never going to back down from that, because that's our voice. At the end of the day, if this is foul play, we could never be loud enough. Never. Now, law enforcement is going to come out here soon. Like you just mentioned, there's rumors they may come out tomorrow or something like that. But whenever they come out, we know we have one of three things that are going to happen, right? They're going to announce that it's an accident. That's going to create a whole storm, because nobody's going to believe that. The second thing that's going to happen is they're going to say it's inconclusive, right? Inconclusive at this point, and then it's still ongoing. That's going to create another storm because of how things were handled every step of the way. There's a lot of blaming that's going to go on because of why it's inconclusive. Or three, the third one is that, hey, it is indeed very suspicious death, and it's still an ongoing investigation. And that in itself is going to create another storm. But, you know, just because we feel a certain way doesn't mean that that's how it is. You know, the law enforcement, the FBI, CHP, Nevada County Sheriff's Department, Prosser County Sheriff's Department, they're going to come up with a theory or their assessment. They'll present it to the public. And, you know, fortunately, you know, that's what we have to wait on. And right now, all we have is what we've released. And, you know, depending on certain positions that they may take, we'll have a lot more info that will come forward, and possibly a whole nother episode.
So what did Doug say there? He said, we're never going to back down from our opinion. He said, if it's found to be foul play by law enforcement, we won't be able to be loud enough. And as Jared said, to paraphrase, even if law enforcement comes out and says otherwise, they know in their hearts what they saw, and they will not believe it. Now, I don't know if you can imagine a more certain, definitive statement that indicates Jared believes there was foul play, that this was not an accident, other than him saying, listen, this was not an accident, guys. There was foul play. Which none of the guys are ready to say just yet, but they've come close. Combine that with statements Nick made, like when he was interviewed by Grizzly True Crime, which was a great interview. Grizzly True Crime interviewed Nick, and Check It TV. Awesome interviews. Go check them out. I'll leave them in the description box. When you put the statement of these three guys together, we will never back down. If it's foul play, we won't be able to speak loud enough. We will never change our mind. We know what we know, and 90% of what we know, the public does not yet know. Nick came up out of the water after finding Kiely's car and Kiely's remains, and nearly immediately said, I suspect it's foul play. What did he see? 90% of what he saw, we don't know he saw. We haven't seen. Guys, it is beyond clear that these three men, who seem like admirable, honest men, they're waiting for law enforcement to make their next move before they say another word. And they've made it clear that whatever law enforcement says, they're going to go with it one way or another. But they'll always know in their hearts, they will always know what they know, and they will never change that. can they say this loud enough for us to hear there was foul play in the death of Kiely Rodni? I know. I don't like to think about it either. You've heard them. What do you guys think? As we look back at true crime cases historically, we find that sometimes law enforcement does everything right and a just resolution is found. We also find that at times law enforcement drops the ball. Sometimes there's corruption, sometimes there's scandal, sometimes there's incompetency, sometimes there's egos that get in the way from finding the truth, but for one reason or another, justice is not received when an egregious crime at the hand of another occurs. If that were to be the case with Kiely, would we want today, tomorrow, next year, for all of eternity to pass without Kiely receiving justice?